There's almost no chance, unless you shut down the internet entirely, to get rid of Bitcoin. It's impossible. It's a cockroach in finance, something you can never kill. So Bitcoin is my answer to that. I own gold and I own a lot more Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin works on a number of levels, and I'm not going to go into it now because there's plenty of pieces from me on why I think Bitcoin is a reserve asset, and probably the world's most pristine reserve asset. It's the only hard asset that has a fixed supply that eventually runs out. And demand is increasing. As the world is turning towards Bitcoin and its price goes up, its market cap is only 200 billion. It's noise right now. It's like a mid-cap S&P stock. But I think it's going to overtake gold in size. Gold is about 10 or 11 trillion. I think Bitcoin goes much bigger than that over time too. That's where it's headed, because for this modern digital world, it is the payment system that we all want. But it's also, more importantly, it's the store of value we need. So the central banks are going to compete at payments level. So that's probably the end of stablecoins. And I think the central banks will force those out of the system. Bitcoin, as a pristine reserve asset, is something different. It's like collateral for a new system, and I think other governments will begin to adopt it. First, it won't be the big governments, but some nation will be sick and tired of currency crisis and will just adopt Bitcoin as its currency. They'll probably first start putting it into their central bank reserves because it's a harder currency, and a game theory plays out. Many people suggest to me, well, the governments are going to ban Bitcoin. The IMF, BIS, they're all going to get together and get rid of this. Well, at 200 billion, they don't care. Tap me on the shoulder when it's at $10 trillion, we'll talk again. So there's plenty of upside to play for before it starts to become something we need to worry about. They probably will give it a go. They've tried to ban gold. Last thing I've checked, it's been working for about 6 millennia as a currency, so it didn't really work. And in this world of a distributed ledger, which is owned by everybody and owned by nobody, there's almost no chance, unless you shut down the internet entirely, to get rid of Bitcoin. It's impossible. It's a cockroach in finance, something you can never kill. That is its power, and that's what makes it so incredible. That's what makes it such a great reserve asset, and this very hardness of it. So I think they may try, but in a globalized world of regulatory arbitrage, somebody else will adopt it, and somebody will allow you to use it. I know countries like the Cayman Islands, where I live. I mean, I came to the Cayman Islands, I kind of knew where the world was going many years ago, and I made a distinct move to a jurisdiction like Cayman, which I thought would offer me some freedoms over others. It also, I don't pay tax here. Well, you do. You pay tax on import duty, but not on other forms of tax. And as a Brit, I'm able to do that and become a resident here, permanent resident here, and eventually a citizen. And that's a good thing. Cayman's a different way of doing it. It's not the cheapest place to live, so it's not an answer for everybody. It's a way out of the system, and I doubt that they're going to not allow the use of Bitcoin. They just don't have the infrastructure for it. The IMF may try and stop them. The regulators may try and stop them, but somebody will allow it. And capital finds a way. It always does. I'm not concerned by that. And I think that's a story when Bitcoin is worth $1 million. But there's a long way between here and there. Now, some people say, well, if the central banks have got this digital currency, why do we need Bitcoin? Two different things again. Remember, payment system, and Bitcoin does that extremely well. A bit slower than it could do, but the lightning layer and all of the development can mean that. But nothing is a reserve asset like Bitcoin, not even gold. It is truly extraordinary, and it's so innovative, we have no idea where it's going. And when we talk about Bitcoin, we can also look at the other parts of the digital asset ecosystem. That is not going away. The genie is out of the bottle. Ethereum is not going away. Digital assets, tokenization, it's all coming. And it's all going to slot in to these new digital currencies brought by the central banks. So payment systems and rails and everything are going to change massively. Everything we understand, it's going to be as big a revolution of money that the internet was for everything from email to video to shopping to everything, to commerce. It just changed the world we live in. That's the size of what this is. This central bank digital currency is part of that narrative. And it is positive, I think, if you own Bitcoin. It is positive, I think, if you own gold. I think gold has that place for those concerned about the future of Bitcoin, but I will take that risk in Bitcoin. I will say, I think it goes a lot higher before I have to worry about that. And I do think Bitcoin is the cockroach that can't be killed. It is something too powerful for even governments to overcome. And I think it is our life raft and our way out. I just wanted to bring everybody's attention to what's really going on. How big this situation of central bank digital currencies is. It really is a game changer. And be careful of what's going to happen to your money within this. I don't think they're going to sell it that they're going to use it to use negative interest rates, but they can go negative 10%. They're not going to sell it that now governments can say, well, we're not going into debt. So they meet their political objectives, but the central banks, who are not voted on by anybody, can do whatever they want. So all it means is they can do more of the same. And it'll get dressed up with all of the benefit statements that come with this new idea. Now, obviously, we could do all of this without a central bank digital currency and without the money printing. That would be Bitcoin. Maybe that's where it's all going in the end. How far down the track that is a lot further than macro forecasting dares to go. It becomes philosophical by nature. The banks in Europe, we're not going to need them soon. We don't need a banking system. Richard Werner has talked about this too. The central banks are going to eat the banking system. And this is all part of how technology is eating the world. And I've talked about how before that cryptocurrencies are eating finance. Decentralized finance and fintech get rid of banks. Banks will have to adapt or die. So this is a really, really interesting time.